Well, hello, my petals, and welcome back to Wedding Florist Social. It's so good to have you back. I have a very special guest on today, and we have some juicy tidbits coming up. But before we get into that, before we dive right in, I would love for you to just hit like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future juicy tidbits in the future or any cool interviews with lovely people like the one coming up today. So you can see my guest here. It's Alison. Say hi, Alison. Hi to the guys.
Hello.
Welcome to Wedding Florist Social, Alison. Alison, as we were saying in our preamble to this recording, I've admired you for a long time. I really stand by your values, and you made a huge difference to me and my business many years ago. And I just think you're an all-round jolly good human being. So I love to have you on the show, and especially to chat about today's topic. In honor of Pride Month, you guys, we're going to go through some, practical tips on how to be more inclusive in your business. How to show everyone out there from the LGBTQIA community how you aren't some nasty person to be feared. You want to include them in your business. You show them how nice you are. So we're going to go through some practical tips. Now, Alison, you've probably seen this in your line of work, in your own communities, and with the florists that you follow. Um, there's a lot of people like that, and I think most people fall into the category of unintentionally excluding people from these from this community that we're talking about today. So um, I've certainly never met a florist who intentionally excludes people from that community. So I guess what a good place to start off with talking about today is why we need to be inclusive first of all, and then go through some tips of how we can possibly do that both online and off. So yeah, in terms of why we should really be inclusive, what are what's your take on that?
It's such a first, thanks for having me, Nikki. I'm happy to be here. I think this is such an important question. Like, why does it matter?
Mhm.
And it matters if you want to serve all people and not be viewed as someone who is, like you said, unintentionally excluding people.
Mhm.
I wish it were true that there aren't people who like do this on purpose, but there are people who
Yeah.
really are like, nope,
Mhm.
and that's great. You know why? Because that helps to create safety in the wedding community because
Mhm.
people know not to come to you.
Yeah.
Let us know you're not here for everybody. Great.
Mhm. Mhm.
Noted. Now we know who you are,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But for those of us, the majority of us on the planet and in this industry who know someone who's gay, who may ourselves be in the LGBTQ community, all of us, the majority of the world, wants to get married, wants to be inclusive, wants to be truly welcoming.
Mhm.
So this isn't a matter of just we change a couple words on our website and now
Yeah.
we're good.
Mhm.
We have to really like sometimes it requires transforming some ideas and misconceptions that you even hold within yourself, but it really entails being fully welcoming to just serving all people so that one, you're showing up in the world the way you really are, and
Yeah,
you're
it's
not
just
like, well,
showing people
i
what's
i
inside of
support
you.
this
Yeah.
support this privately, but in my business, oh, that's not how I show up.
Yeah.
Really align those two things.
Mhm.
And it's just the right thing to do at this point. If you are a business owner who wants to serve all people, if you want your business to survive and thrive in the long run, it's not helpful to be perceived as bigoted
Mhm. Mhm.
or exclusive
Mhm.
to only a certain type of clientele.
And
It's
you
just
need to
not
show where
in
you
your long-term
stand.
interest.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You need to show where you stand on certain issues. And I think, with a lot of the couples, we're talking about wedding floristry specifically, and with a lot of couples, they are of a a younger generation than I am. I'm
Yeah.
not, no, a lady doesn't tell her age, but you know, that a lot of sort of younger folk than us do that. That's part of their decision-making process when they are buying things and booking things. It's like, what values does that person have? It's not always just about price. How much does that person cost, or do their flowers look pretty? It's also, what are their values? What do they stand for? Does that
Yes.
align with mine? You know, are they eco-friendly? Are they welcoming and inclusive? You know, all of these sort of things. So
So
somebody,
true. So
yeah.
true. Like the social media aspect of what we do is something we can't escape, right? We have to show up and promote our businesses, but that's not the most important thing to
Mhm,
your future client.
mhm,
Um, I have been in business for 22 years, so I have seen a lot of changes. I have aged in the wedding industry, right? Where now I'm older. When I was 25, right, or 23, however old I was when I first started, yeah, like I was the age of the client, sometimes younger than the client. Now I'm definitely older.
You don't
Sometimes
look it,
not
does she,
by
guys?
much. But it's, you know, but this is what it is, right? This is what having a long-term business is.
Yeah.
I'm not always going to be the demographic I'm serving.
Mhm.
And so for people who have been doing this for a long time and it's been working, it can be easy to go, oh, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But people are looking at your values. The upcoming clients, that can be the thing that makes you their choice,
Yeah.
is that your social values align. And just additionally, it doesn't have to be an LGBTQ couple
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're talking to.
100%.
It's people that they align, as they identify as allies, and they
Mhm.
want to work with an ally. It's not about, you know, only serving LGBTQ plus clients. It's about serving everybody.
So true. And I think you have to have those conversations with your clients to, you know, it's not a case of like filling in an online inquiry form and saying, are you gay? Are you transgender? Are you non-binary? You know, I mean, you don't do that. These things are opened up. They're brought up in conversations like wedding consultations, and you know, for example, one of mine recently, the couple themselves weren't part of the LGBTQ community, but one of their very important friends in their bridal party identified as non-binary, and they you know, I was very respectful of that. There was a certain term that they liked to use, a certain pronoun, and you know, a few things like that, and that I was very respectful of. And yeah, just things like that, so that my values, they knew that I, you know, was safe. That person was important to them, even though they weren't from that community themselves, you know. And that was
Absolutely.
opened up through just conversations during a wedding consultation. So there's changes that I think we can all probably make in our online and offline presence, right, to sort of show people, hey, we're with you, you know, you're welcome, you're safe here. So
Yeah.
let's go through some of those now, maybe. So I guess, should we start with maybe attracting people, like an online presence thing, and then we can kind of dive into maybe other things? So is there like a checklist that you have for people? Is that, you know, what can we do to make our online presence more inclusive?
You know, I love the idea of like, if we just had a checklist, right? I have some resources on my website at realflowerbusiness.com that, like on my blog under inclusivity, you'll find some resources there, some conversations that I've had.
We'll pop the link to that in the description, guys, so keep a lookout for that.
And so a couple of things, a couple of points, um, are one, to not make assumptions.
Hmm.
So for example, here's an example. A friend of mine sent me an email the other day and said, look at this. Look at this form. Scroll down this email and look at that form.
Hmm.
And I look at the form and it's long and anyway, I say, yeah, wow, that's quite a form, right? And she says, yeah. And it's for an LGBTQ couple. And the form just says bride, groom, bride, groom, bride, groom, everywhere.
Mhm.
It says, even in the text of the email to the brides, who
Yeah.
both have very clearly female names,
Yeah.
okay? Not to be putting people in boxes, but you would assume
Yeah.
that these are women based on their names. It says in the text of the email, usually I will talk to the bride and groom a week before the wedding or whatever it said.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing, I can see you're
It's a
physically
huge
uncomfortable.
bugbear of mine.
It's unbelievable. So it's
Yeah.
bad enough that it's on the form
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't take time to get yourself like, I'm going to check my things and make sure I'm not being exclusionary. But in the email too, whoa, like this has
Yeah.
got to be on your radar.
It
Who
sends
are
a
your
message,
people?
right?
It sends a message, but also it's like really makes it look like you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
You don't know who I am.
Don't
You
care
didn't read
about
our
you.
names.
Yeah.
And to say, and you could even go, oh, well, that's innocent enough. Oh, it's, which it's not, by the way, but someone could say that. But here's the deal. It's really, really not, because if you're the recipient, so we've used the word like being safe, and I feel like that's something that's not always true, right? It's not always safe, but it's what we strive for. And what we mean by that is that you're not going to inquire with us when you have two clearly feminine names on the top of the list here, and we're not going to say to you, we don't do that here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what safe essentially means,
Yeah.
right? It means you're not going to be turned away, rejected, or your humanity is not going to be disrespected here. Just
Absolutely.
so if anybody's like, safe space, what, because, we're also on different sides of the pond. Safe space here is like, oh, these kids in their safe space. It's really important that we have, a common language around what does that mean? It means you respect everyone's humanity who
Yeah.
comes through your door, who clicks on your website, who has a conversation with you. And similar to the conversation, like to what you just said about having like a non-binary loved one, VIP in the wedding, when we open up the conversation by not just having it be binary choices everywhere, it opens up the door for them to say to you, hey, this is what we have going on in our family, and we'd like to make sure that it's really important to us that this person's respected. And then even if you mess up, you might say the wrong pronoun, you might do the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of your actions line up to you just say, I'm sorry, my mistake, right? That was unintentional.
Yeah.
And it feels like you still care, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to always be perfect. And that can be the thing that prevents people from doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they go, I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You do your best.
So yeah, I mean, I had just to tell a little story that I had an amazing couple, Charles and Daniel, the lovely guys, and we were having our consultation, our initial consultation, and on the initial inquiry form, they had written however many bridesmaids it was, and that was their it's okay. So we're going through the consultation, and I got to that part and I was like, okay, so you mentioned there was like 6 bridesmaids or however many there were. And one of them went, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm literally just reading from the form here. Like that wasn't me. And the other guy was like, yeah, sorry, that is my bad kind of thing. So, but this often actually cropped up. Even one of their mums was using the term bridesmaid, and and yeah, we slip up, right? But it's about showing that you're welcoming, you're caring, you're like, I respect your humanity and all of those things. So, um, yeah, there's going to be those people out there who are like old school perhaps, or who grew up in an age before this sort of thing was talked about a lot, or and they might be thinking, oh, I can't keep up with all of these pronouns and stuff. What am I supposed to write on my website? How do you show that you're inclusive on your website? I mean, I saw something on, I forget whose TikTok, I think it was the Fem Leads TikTok or something like that recently, and one of their videos was about it was a wedding planner who specifically dealt with people from this community, and they were like, if I can't tell from your website within the first 30 seconds that you are welcoming and inclusive, there is no way I'm going to recommend you to, yeah, my clients. So
Right.
those people from this community are, you know, they're shopping around online. Things happen fast. You scroll, you click, things happen very fast within a few seconds sometimes. So what can we put on our websites that would make a few nice changes? Give us a start.
So the first thing is the not making assumptions thing. And that starts by opening up that conversation about pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could do something visible like having a rainbow flag or some version of a rainbow flag. You could actually have, maybe you make donations to LGBTQ organizations, maybe you volunteer, and you can put that as like, we're a proud supporter of, right? So those are ways you can like really flag, but like flag yourself as an ally, right? You can probably, I'm sure there are things online you can find, there's like, I'm a proud ally, and you can like paste it on your website, but it's got to be true. And there's
Yeah.
got to be work that you're doing on the back end. And so that looks like those things that we're talking about to do to your website. So pronouns, you know, it's very important to share yours and to ask and invite them.
Yeah.
So instead of having a form that says bride's name, groom's name, which by the way, you shouldn't have had for at least the last decade, if not longer, right? This is
Yeah.
so like for the old school people, you're way old school, okay? You are a decade plus behind
Mm-hmm.
on being more inclusive. Like this is like Mayday.
2024.
Like Mayday. Okay. This is like way overdue. So, because also like the person contacting you sometimes isn't even the bride or groom. Like,
Yeah.
let's just open it all up. Right. But so when we do that, even though still most of the people who contact me are a bride and groom, it is signaling to them, like you said, if you have a family member, if there's important VIP, like I get this, you can have this conversation with me.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
costs you nothing to just invite people's pronouns on your contact form.
I think
How
mine
do you
says just
know?
something like names of couple. Like it's as simple as that. Like I don't refer to a gender or a maybe I should possibly, do I put the pronouns in? I can't remember. If not, I'm gonna. But
It's, you know,
it's
it's
just
a
names
tricky,
of,
it's a tricky thing because it's like a lot of times people will, like I said, most of the time I'm still getting, you know, a female name with a female pronoun, right? Like it's most of the time, right? But that's why it's not about the majority of people being LGBTQ. It's about making sure that the people who do, you know, stick around on your website long enough feel the love, feel like they are also part of who you're
yeah,
talking about. So, you know, 30 seconds is a generous amount of time
yeah,
actually for someone to spend.
yeah.
Most of your couples are going to spend 3 to 5 seconds on your website before they decide if they're going to work with you. So if you're really talking about like, how do I make this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a great answer. You're going to have to figure, like everyone's going to have to figure that out on their
Yeah,
own. How do I show up? But again, we can't just put these visual cues out. And then when they actually talk to us, we're talking in a super
yeah.
heteronormative
Has to be
way.
authentic, right? Yeah. I mean, on my website, for example, on my initial blurb, you know, hi, I'm Vicky, and I have some, what, how did I word it? Rest assured, you can always be yourself with me at Floral Core, you know.
Yes.
And then have just checked my inquiry form and done that on the inquiry form page. It says if there are any particular pronouns you'd like us to use during consultations, please feel free to share that with us.
That's
Um,
perfect.
and the inquiry form itself just says names of couple. And yeah, you know, since making those changes, I've seen an increase in business. Go figure, you know, from people in this lovely community. So, I just, Yeah, I think there's certain changes that people can make. I would recommend people just do a little review of their site, perhaps, and review of their socials. And the amount of florists that I see just using the term bride, even in our own florist groups, and that's fine if you are dealing with brides, but it's almost like the bride is the only person who ever deals with a wedding or organizes a wedding. And I actually even was signing up for some florist software recently, and the person kind of selling it to me kept saying the bride, and I kept saying or groom, or kind of other things, and they weren't getting it, and I didn't sign up with them for that reason. So
Mm.
um so yeah, there's all sorts of things we can do online, any sort of reference to like just like you say, brides or grooms, or particular genders, or just, I mean, you want to be welcoming and friendly, because I think a lot of people are inside, they're not showing that out there,
Well, and
if
again, like you said, we get into habits
yeah,
and, oh, it feels like it's not broke, so I'm not going to fix it. When meanwhile, like it actually, like you just said, you made we're talking about really small
yeah,
shifts here, right?
yeah,
You made small shifts and it's made a difference in your ability to attract clients from a very like an affluent community of shoppers, right? So this is not just about like, oh, we're social justice warriors, right? This is also about, this is good for my pocketbook when customers just don't have to question and they can trust me, and now I'm tapping into a new market. So like it's altruistic and in your business's good interest all at once, right? To be a good ally if you are not showing up as one yet. Um,
I mean,
you
I'm
know,
just a
whether
general, but sorry, to sort of cut
okay.
off a bit there, but I'm just a big general believer in life in general, treating people how you'd like to be treated yourself, right? And if I was shopping around, and I was really excited about my wedding, and I kept seeing all this reference to, somebody that wasn't me, or I kept seeing hate towards me, or just people, talking about brides and grooms when if I was marrying a woman, for example, and I would feel really disheartened. I would feel left out. I would feel excluded. And why would you want anyone to feel like that?
Yeah.
Especially, in life in general, but in your business in particular. So yeah, make changes online, I guess. And you can talk about things like this on your socials as well, right? This is what your stories are for. Reels don't have to be just pretty pictures of bouquets or something.
Yeah.
They can be you expressing where you stand on certain things. So
Absolutely. You know, when it's something that is as important as, in general, in the wedding industry, kind of breaking through some barriers
mm,
of excluding people,
mhm.
it can sound overwhelming when like to say, oh, well, just get rid of bride and groom on your website. It's like, what? It's everywhere, right? It's bridal bouquets. So it's like there are going to be occasions where something, for example, in my gallery, like my portfolio, it used to say bridal bouquets.
Mhm,
Now it just says bouquets.
mhm, mhm.
Not a huge difference,
Yeah,
right? But it is a difference because, again, even though there may be two women getting married, they may not be like, I'm bride, right? They may have a
very true.
different way they identify. So we have to just be really clear that the intention behind it isn't just to be like, hey, let's be a hipster and add some pronouns, and now all of a sudden you're an ally, right?
Yeah,
The intention is to say, this matters to me. It matters to my customers. It matters to community that I care about, or maybe you're even a part of it. Here's the truth. There's some people who are a member of the LGBTQ plus community who aren't fully embracing these sorts of things either, right? Because
yeah,
of old school habits.
yeah.
And so it just pervasive. So we need to be like, hey, it stops now, right? Here's where we stop it. We stop it by just saying couples' names, clients' names, inviting the pronouns so that they know that we understand that having this conversation is okay. And it also comes down to really just being clear about what, like what you just said, how your form says, if there are pronouns you want to
Yeah.
share with me, that's all it takes. It doesn't have to be so complicated, or something where you go, oh, well, this is going to take a lot of time. Yes, you should read the homepage of your website. Does it say we help brides and grooms getting married in such and such?
Yeah.
I'd change that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Because that's, like you're saying, the LGBTQ plus wedding planner, it's their job to make sure they don't put their client in a situation.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we found you this great florist who will not use your proper pronouns.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they can't do that for a lot of reasons, not just because it's bad for their brand, because it endangers their client. It causes harm to their client's psyche.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they can't do that. It's a big risk. People, I think, underestimate
Yeah.
the level of just harm that it causes when we don't care enough to do these small
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, it's not like just getting your name wrong. If someone was calling me Vic instead of Vicky, I mean, that's annoying, and it's a little disrespectful. Like, when did we get so familiar that you called me Vic? But that's that's very different from somebody constantly referring to you as um she instead of they, or something, whatever it may be. It like you say, causes damage. So let's move, we've talked about some of the online stuff, some of the small changes people can make to show that hey, you're welcome here. Let's take it a step further, and I won't bite. So what happens when you have those conversations, people, once you get people in to your through your shop door, as it were, and you start having consultations with people, and I mean, I'd like to pick up on a word you said earlier, which was assumptions. And um, for example, because you have two brides getting married, you might not assume that one is having a bouquet and one is having a buttonhole, or or boutonniere, as you guys call them. Um, you know, have those general conversations with people. Perhaps ask,
What are you wearing?
what are you wearing? Yeah, something general.
What would you like to wear or carry flowers? That's a great point. Yeah, we don't want to just go, okay, so which one's the boy and which one's the girl? Like,
Yeah.
that's not how this works.
Mhm.
Everyone is just a humaning
Mhm.
in the way that feels best for them.
Mhm.
And the more you can just sort of recognize that, the better you are. Don't assume anything.
Yeah, this is it. And I've even stopped using the word bridesmaids. I just say maids for everyone. But no matter who I'm talking to, or how much I know about them, or um, I um. I would be definitely afraid of, slipping back into, if perhaps I'm speaking to two guys and I say the word bridesmaid by mistake because it was habit. So I've just like changed it to just maids, and that suits everyone.
I
That
go with wedding party, because then
yeah, yeah.
it's like wedding party. You might both have people, you might not. And I mean, by the way, this goes for everybody. There are plenty of bridegroom couples who have a, maid of honor for the groom and a bridesman for the bride. Like, there is actually no rules like there used to be, that girls are on one side, boys are on the other, and this is the one and only way.
Yeah, and
So
likewise, it's not just flower girls and page boys. I had a wedding a few months back where they had a flower dude, and he loved his title, and
great.
so he was carrying a basket of petals and throwing them, but he was the flower dude. So I think it's stepping out of that sort of the old habits, and just assuming, right, okay, it's a boy, so it's a page boy, or there's other more general words you can use, have those conversations with people. And I think when we actually listen to people, you find out a lot more, and you can do a better job for them, because you can just listen to them talking, and that some magic happens. They come out with things like values, and they mention something that they forgot to mention on the inquiry form, or you can pick up on those things if you really listen to them. the boutonnieres for two grooms, or maybe one of them wants to carry a bouquet. I don't know.
Right.
You just, again, it's having those general conversations, and using more general terms and being respectful of people's pronouns. And you but you don't just launch straight into that. You have a consultation and you say, right, okay, so what do you identify as? What are your pronouns?
Right. But,
So how do you approach that?
you've probably heard me ranting about, online contact forms and all these like things that people do incorrectly with their
Mm,
contact forms. And one of the things that I really don't like are when florists have all these check boxes, right? Check
mm,
all that apply. What will you need, right? And then it's like every single thing you might possibly want for a wedding is on this list. And how would you describe your wedding? Candlelit elegance, boho chic, right? Like trying to put people in boxes is always going to hurt your sales. It's
mm.
always going to hurt your conversion because you're not open. Better to have an open-ended question. What would you like your wedding to feel like than which one of these is closest to you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when we can just sort of take that as a general sort of, we want to know as much about our customers as possible so we can serve them to the best of our ability. You can get excited about making these two buttonholes. Are they the same? Are they different? Is it like a lapel thing?
Mhm.
Or one of you wants a bouquet? Awesome. You've literally been dreaming about carrying a bouquet your entire life. Fabulous. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Instead of cutting them off at the knees with, okay, so what kind of boutonniere do you want? When they're
Mhm.
like, actually, I want something totally different. And now I feel like I'm not sure if I can say it.
Yeah, and that affects the entire rest of your working relationship with them as well. And also they're not going to recommend you to any of their friends either, because they didn't feel heard or seen or respected. So
Or they
yeah,
didn't even get what they wanted
exactly.
because
It
they
takes the
didn't
magic away.
ask. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's huge. I think there's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of changes we can make, and but I think it's having those conversations. It's being more general about it. It's I have an inquiry form, which I implemented after doing your Art of Good Business course many years ago. I think, what was that, about 6 years ago now? My goodness,
Yeah.
back in the day. And that's changed a lot and evolved over the years and stuff. But to go back to what you were saying there, mine says, tell us about the kind of day you're planning. So it's like a general open-ended question. Now I do have some ticky boxes in terms of like, let's give me an idea of sort of a few things you may want, so that I can sort of then go back and say to them, you're asking for 20 centerpieces and your budget's 500 quid, so
Yeah.
it's not doable. But yeah, I do ask the open-ended questions as well, because there's often things in that you can use during the consultation, right? They'll mention things. I mean, have you ever come across that yourself, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more information that we can just elicit from people, just let them share, it just makes our job easier because if people are really interested in working with you, they share more.
Mhm.
And if they get to your website and it doesn't greet them with, we serve brides and grooms who blah, 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 and it says, we serve couples, we serve all people, right? It doesn't have to just be a rainbow flag. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be something that feels out of character for you because you haven't really shown up like that as an ally, or you don't know like what will other people think, right? Because that's a whole other topic. Um, you can subtly add language that just recognizes, like, we serve all people, like you were saying, everyone, you're welcome to be yourself here. We
Mhm.
welcome everyone, is enough of a clear statement
Yeah.
for that wedding planner to go, I'm going to look further. I might
Yeah.
stay more than 30 seconds now.
Mhm.
And then when they do, they might go to your bio or your about page. And that's where you can have some core values
Mhm.
that state, again, your commitment or where you donate or volunteer your time or why this matters to you. And that makes them even more likely to go, okay, I'm gonna take a chance
Yeah.
on this person.
I mean, it's good customer service, and right? I mean, we all need to treat everyone with good customer service, and you know, if somebody comes to you, no matter what their gender or their sexuality or whatever they identify as, comes to you and they're excited about their wedding, you treat them with that excitement back, right? You're like, you want what? Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Let's talk about it, you know? And you know, sometimes people are a little anxious maybe and they need a bit of help, but gender, sexuality, you know, has nothing to do with it. You have these conversations with people. I guess treat people, I would say treat people equally, treat people how they should be treated. You know, whatever, you know, community they come from. You know, you kind of mirror their not body language. What am I trying to say? Mirror their language. You know, in terms, you
Mhm.
know, if they don't want to talk about the ins and outs of every single flower type or whatever, don't bombard them with all of these roses, or you know,
Yep.
um but that applies to everyone. And once you've got, you know, no matter what their gender, their sexuality is, it's you know, you have these conversations with people. You treat them like humans and not as part of a certain community, right? So yeah, unless they you know, particularly proud of that and they want to talk about that, in which case you know that because you've had the conversations with them and
Yeah.
they've mentioned
Well,
it.
I think sometimes it can be lost on some, like, just the industry in general and the wedding industry in general. It can be lost that it is a big deal to have a actual, like, recognized, fully legal, accepted by society LGBTQ plus wedding.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is still, like you said, it's still newer, even though, let's face it, there's nothing new about this. Maybe there was a
Yeah.
secret, right? But like this is not new, right?
Yeah.
However, what is new is like that this is possible, right? So there are people who, even if they're younger than we are, right? Even if these clients are younger than we are, they've still grown up where there might have been, either because of society, religion, family, any number of things where they just thought this would never be possible for them to have this wedding day, to do this walk down the aisle, to say I do. And
And
so
this all
it's
happened
even a
in my
bigger deal.
adulthood. Yeah, as
Sorry,
well.
what's that?
This all happened in my adulthood as well. You know, it's this isn't like just happened in like, you know, 40 odd, 50 odd years ago. This has happened while I'm an adult, and I remember like the weddings here becoming legal. What was it at first? Yeah, partnerships. And you know, we had like it wasn't a wedding, but it kind of was. It was the closest thing that you had,
Yes,
to a
but it
legal
had to have a
wedding.
different name because it had to
Yeah,
be exclusionary, right?
yeah, and
Because
then
we wanted to be equal but separate
yeah,
still, right?
yeah.
Same thing here in Vermont. We had, I think we were the second state. I'm always mad we weren't the first, but we had civil unions.
Hmm.
And, that was awesome. Like, we were so proud to have, like, that felt like a big victory,
Hmm.
but they had a different name.
Yeah,
And so then, just speaking from like my own history on this journey of like trying to be inclusive and understanding how this works for both my business and my personal values, once we no longer called them civil unions because we actually had legal gay marriage here in the United States, just drop civil union, just like are going to go take bride and groom off where it doesn't apply.
hmm.
I took civil union right off of my website because it was no longer a thing.
Hmm.
But then I also took away my visibility of my inclusion.
Yeah,
And so, this is kind of me coming back around to it over the last, I don't know how many years now, but being like, hey, you know what? Even though everything's equal now, and I'm trying to be like, oh, it's all weddings. It's like, how do I actually still let people know
yeah,
that, they're safe here? And so, yeah, things are going to change, right? I had
yeah.
to add
Constantly
civil
evolving.
unions, then take them away.
Yeah,
And it's a good thing that they're not
yeah,
separate anymore. And that's what we want to do in our business. We want to integrate everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge topic, but I think, I think probably the biggest thing to take away from this is for me, I think is not making assumptions. That uh, everybody's just human, and whether you're talking to a heterosexual couple or whether you're talking to two guys, or three people in a marriage, these things happen, and whatever it might be, two non-binary people, and whoever you're talking to, um you know everybody's got their own desires, their own wants, their own story, their things that are important to them. So don't make those assumptions initially. I think a lot of sort of old school kind of florists who haven't grown up with this perhaps might still make mistakes in that respect. But hopefully this podcast has helped with that. But yeah, don't make assumptions. That's a biggie. Is there any particular one, like, final note that you'd like to, maybe a little juicy tidbit that you'd like to um, give before we part ways?
Oh, good question. I think in terms of, putting a little pin or cherry on top of the conversation, it's really about, if you're feeling either even slightly overwhelmed or intimidated, or even feeling like badly, like, oh gosh, I am not doing this right. You're not alone. People, like I just said, I realized that I wasn't showing up. Like we can lose sight of things
Yeah.
sometimes, but keep in mind that you want people to come to your site and they're going to ask, am I represented? Is this for me?
Mhm.
And so that's really what we want to do. We want to let people know that we are for them, and whatever that means to you, but I think that's really what we want to communicate, that when you get, it's sort of like when I am looking for something online, right? Like, yes, I want to know about, like, let's just say I were looking for clothes online. Let's just pretend. So if I were, I might look for the type of material, right? I'm going to look for the fit. I
Mhm.
might care about their social responsibility, or I might care more about the price, right? But each brand, each online store that I might try to shop at, they have their own brand. They have their own thing. They have something that makes them the clear, distinct choice.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to be.
Mhm.
So if you want to be inclusive and you want to be the clear, distinct choice, that's the mindset you want to go with. How do I make sure people feel represented?
Yeah. So when you're looking through your websites and you're posting things on socials, be mindful of that. That's really good advice, Alison. And you have lots of information about this on your website as well, right?
I do. I have a few, if you want to listen to me talk about this more, with a few conversations, a few recorded videos on YouTube that are really some thoughtful conversations that I've had over the years with people about how do we actually step up and show up for the LGBTQ plus community. Yes, during Pride Month, happy Pride Month to everybody out there, but also all the time,
Yeah.
just all the time.
And this is part of the reason why we have Pride Month, is to give people from this community their voice and make sure that it spreads awareness, right? And I guess it makes, in terms of Wedding Florists, keeps us on our toes a little bit and makes us go, okay, let's record a podcast. Let's show people. Let's improve the industry in terms of showing up and stepping up, I suppose, as you put it. So
Yeah, it
um,
doesn't have to be complicated, but it should be meaningful.
yeah, 100%. So yeah, like I say, it's a big topic, and if you want to go and view any of Alison's other videos on YouTube, we'll pop the links for those below, and as well as the sort of blog area on her website, which has some more information on this. Educate yourselves, guys, absolutely, and I think we can all do better. And I know I'm certainly going to go onto my website and just give it a once over, give it a bit of a check, and because things are constantly evolving in our industry, and you have to make sure you sort of stay current, I suppose, and make sure you're on top of things. And so yeah, I'm going to go check my website after this for sure.
Can I add one small little thing because you
Sure,
just
please do.
based on what you just said there. Because again, I know that there can be like some pushback, mental pushback of like, oh, this is going to take time, or oh, I don't know how important this really is to my business right now. But this is like about showing your brand integrity in terms of, the way you show up. And it really can just be a matter of looking at it. You're just looking at it. You're evaluating your brand. Am I showing up the way I want my brand to show up? Because your website 3 years ago probably isn't representing your brand right now, right?
Yeah.
The verbiage that you used on your contact form when you made it 7 or 10 years ago might not actually be reflective of your brand value at this point. You might ask different questions. So it's good for you and your brand too. It's not just about being inclusive for Pride Month. It's about you really being your best version of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great place to end things, Alison, I think.
Oh.
So yeah, guys, you go check out Alison's stuff. We'll pop the links in the descriptions. And thanks so much for joining us, and flower on.